the movie critic business, discussing box office, i.e. the amount of money a movie earns in theaters, is generally considered to be gauche and lowbrow. Also considered to be gauche and lowbrow in the movie critic business? Me. So I generally have no problem doing it. But yeah, for the most part, it's something you just aren't supposed to do. And not only because the mere mention that some terrible waste of film making money might be a bad thing is guaranteed to turn your inbox into an open sewer. You're supposed to be talking about the artistry and the technique and leaving the filthy lucre to the bean counters. It doesn't matter how much it makes or how many people saw it, we're supposed to say, so long as the movie itself was good. And in a perfect world, that would be true. But this, I will remind you, is not a perfect world. So yeah, as much as we want to deny it, money matters, attendance matters, box office matters. Let me show you why. About 2 years ago, give or take, filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, the director of Pan's Labyrinth, Hellboy, and The Devil's Backbone, had finally gotten his lifelong dream project set up at Universal Pictures, a big-budget feature-length adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, a sci-fi horror epic in which Arctic explorers discover the ruins of an alien civilization and awaken the horrible monsters within. For Del Toro, it represented a major career boost after the crushing disappointment of being forced to abandon the director's chair on The Hobbit during MGM's financial collapse, and Universal was not screwing around on this one. James Cameron himself was acting as producer and bringing his crazy powerful Avatar 3D equipment with him. Del Toro's team had spent years designing the creatures and effects for what would be a no-holds-barred R-rated monster party, and they'd even lined up a major actor who, if nothing else, had a lot of experience pretending to take alien stories thought up by a mentally ill science fiction writer very, very seriously. It was to be the stuff of movie geek dreams, a hardcore Lovecraftian monster epic fully realized by two of Hollywood's most potent creative and technical powerhouses. I was pretty pumped to see it. How about you? Well, too bad, because even though all the prep work was done and all the relevant parties were ready to go, when the time came, Universal said no to a green light. The reason? Del Toro wouldn't budge on keeping the vital R rating, and the studio didn't want to spend the necessary millions on a movie that probably wouldn't be a huge blockbuster since teenagers couldn't get into it. What happened? Why did Universal suddenly blink on something they must have known was always a risk? Because Universal just had a horrible last couple of years, losing money hand over fist, and worst of all, they lost it by doing the right thing. Universal was the studio that looked at the emerging, sophisticated, high-end, hard-to-please movie geek audience and said, we want to be in that business. When everyone else was doubling down on brand names and safe bets, they went for the high ground. Hell, they actively courted Guillermo del Toro to be on their team. They threw in behind a Hellboy sequel even though the original was strictly a cult item and its original studio had passed. In an age of modernized werewolves and CGI overkill, their Wolfman reboot went for period class and old-school monster makeup. And in their biggest gamble, they gave free reign, full advertising support, and a choice summer release, and a hearty estimated $85 million budget to Scott Pilgrim, a love letter to geek and gamer culture, directed by Edgar Wright and based on a Canadian indie graphic novel. They took the high road, risking big money on worthy projects. And they paid for it. They paid for it big time, and it's widely believed that Scott Pilgrim's disastrous box office performance was the final straw with investors. The symbolism hurt just as bad as the financial loss. Not only did the bold, risky project get crushed at the American box office, it got crushed by The Expendables, a cynical, pandering cash grab that couldn't be a more generic, safe-bet, cookie-cutter assembly line blockbuster. After an experience like that, is it any wonder that any studio would suddenly reconsider betting on risky, big-idea projects? But you know what did make money for Universal, though? Fast and the Furious 4. Massive hit, great box office. So, guess what we got more of? That's the long and short of it, guys. When good movies fail at the box office, other good movies will suffer because of it. It's entirely plausible that because this movie didn't make money until DVD, this movie didn't get made at all. And because this was a hit, we're getting more of the same. Hooray. As of today, Guillermo del Toro is trying to set his dream project up at another studio. So far, it hasn't come together. Back at Universal, they've already started talking about Fast and the Furious 6. So don't ever let anyone tell you that the box office doesn't matter, or that lovers of all that's good, original, and brave in filmmaking or popular culture in general don't have a right to be put off when crap keeps raking in the dough. I'm Bob, and that's the big picture.